All right, today on the Superhuman Podcast, we're joined by an incredibly driven and dynamic force in tech and innovation. His name is Krish Jajoo, and he's a computer science and engineering student at Santa Clara University. And he's really deeply involved with AI ethics, fintech, investing, and most notably here, health tech. He's currently a product and software intern at Res Intelligence, a data science intern optimizing D1 athlete performance here at Santa Clara University, and he's an analyst at the Santa Clara Investment Fund, all while serving on the student advisory board of the Sioka Center and helping run AI Collaborate at Santa Clara University, a club that I'm also a part of. And he's building at the intersection of technology, ethics, and finance, and then also technology, ethics, and human performance. So we're going to dive into how he's thinking about innovation in the field, some ethical questions, responsibility, and designing tech that helps people perform and live better, and why we should do it. So it's great to have you, Krish. Is there anything I missed?
No, no, no. I appreciate the introduction. You really did your research.
Yeah, I read your LinkedIn a few times, if that counts
Appreciate it.
as
Appreciate it.
research.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for the introduction, and I'm happy to be here, excited to talk about cool things.
Yeah, so and it is really cool, health technology. And I know we share that. I want to know what in particular got you really interested in health technology. Was it a certain experience? Um, for me, the logic behind taking care of your health is just so strong. It's hard to not be behind that. Is there a certain logic behind it? Is there where's your motivation come from there?
Totally. I mean, I feel like growing up, I played so many sports, and I think till about eighth grade, I was set on being an NBA player. And then when I realized that wasn't the way things were gonna go, throughout high school, I became more exposed to technology and I realized, hey, that's the future, right? But I didn't want to let go of my passion for sports, my passion for running, weightlifting, basketball, all of those things are still very dear to me. So I thought, why not combine the two things, right? Use technology to help innovate in health. And as you said it really well. Health is, I think, the most important thing across anything, right? If you're not sleeping well, if you're not exercising, your mental performance is going to suffer. Your performance at work, your performance in school is going to suffer. So I think um, beyond anything, health should be your number one priority. And I think people don't realize that enough, and they tend to disregard their physical health, their mental health, and so I think with technology becoming increasingly more important and increasingly involved in every aspect of our life, and health being pretty much the number one most important thing, the combination of those two is going to be extremely powerful moving forward. And for me personally, just being really involved with fitness and health and enjoying learning about these things, I just saw it as the perfect opportunity to learn, and I see it as something really amazing to be a part of moving forward.
That's really amazing, and it makes me think of why are we so attached to sports when we're younger? Why do we praise it so much?
That's a
And
great question.
I think
Yeah,
it's
'cause
because, like, yeah, the human naturally wants to be healthier, but then when you're an adult and you're like, I have to feed myself, your
mhm.
mind turns into, you know, can I get a job? Can I put a roof over my head?
Yeah.
Right? Out of that survival instinct. But then I guess that kind of perverts into just wanting maybe money for its own sake. And sometimes we don't even
Mm,
take care of our health there, uh,
yeah.
which kind of connects all the things you're saying. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, that's a great point because if you think about it, I mean, as kids, a lot of us were into sports. You're right about that. And at that time, we have no responsibilities. We have no financial responsibilities. So naturally, what comes to us is, I think it's like sort of primal, right? Like you're collaborating with people to achieve a certain goal.
Hmm.
There's that competitive nature. So it's like very like it's kind of ingrained into us. And so like naturally we were, focusing on our health. But then as those societal responsibilities come into play, whether it be providing for your family and stuff like that, that tends to take a backseat. And yeah, people become more focused with money. Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah. Um, that's I think that's a really strong logic, and as an adult, we probably shouldn't forget what it's all about at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So that's really good stuff. Um, now now that we know, why you're interested in the health tech industry, what's your particular focus maybe at the moment in health tech or fitness tech?
Mhm.
Uh, where's a niche of this broad industry that's really exciting you at the moment?
Yeah, so I think health tech is quite broad, and a lot of the innovation that's happening is happening within the sort of medical and like the hospital's actual healthcare space, and innovating in that area because it is quite a dated industry, I feel, and a lot of the systems they use are quite traditional. So a lot of innovations happening there, but for me personally, it's been more about personal wellness and making it easier for an individual to understand more about their body, their health, and how they're performing. So for me, I've been following. I know you wear an Oura ring. I wear a Whoop. Yeah, so like things like companies like that have been very fascinating to me, and I've been following them quite closely. And overall, just being able to provide actionable insights to people um, and has been really something that I'm exploring, especially when it comes to sleep. I think sleep is, I think by far the number one thing people need to focus on. So, yeah, definitely just bringing actionable insights to people about their own health so that they can make key lifestyle changes to improve their performance and overall well-being. That's been my main focus when it comes to health tech.
Hmm. Sleep the most important thing to health. You've mentioned that a couple times on this podcast so far. I wonder what's the what leads you to have a strong opinion of of sleep rather than other metrics.
Mhm. Well, I'm not sure. Are you familiar with the Huberman Lab podcast?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so I listened to that quite a bit, and he has this one guest. He's a professor at UC Berkeley. I'm forgetting his name, but he's the author of the book Why We Sleep.
Oh, I know
Uh,
who you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. And so they did a whole series, like a 7 episode series on just sleep and talking about sleep. And I learned through that and through listening to that book as well on like the audiobook, just how important sleep is compared to anything else. And there's so many like very niche things within sleep as well, like having consistent sleep time, consistent wake time, the length of your sleeping. Like most people consider the amount you're sleeping to be the most important thing, but there's so much more to it, and how to optimize your sleep because, of course, exercise and nutrition are important, but if you're not sleeping well enough, you're not going to be able to exercise properly. You're not going to be able to recover from your exercise. So there's that one thing has an effect on everything else in your life. So I feel like it needs to get more credit um, for its importance, and people need to pay attention to it more. But overall, I think it's just through reading books, through listening to podcasts, that's how I've learned about just how important sleep is, and that's why I've come to prioritize it and why I've talked about it so much.
Hmm. Okay. What so you said also is it Matthew Walker?
I believe so.
That's
Yeah,
like
Matt
okay.
Walker. Yeah.
Yeah, he's I think actually Huberman and Matt Walker are both backers of Eight Sleep, which is an interesting
Mm,
company. If you know of them.
I've heard of them
So that's definitely something to look out for.
for sure.
But you said the amount of sleep is important, but there's more to it. What
Hmm.
else should we be, trying to optimize with our sleep?
Hmm. So from what I've heard is consistent sleep time is very important. So most of us set alarms in the morning to wake up, but I feel like we should even be setting alarms in the evening to remind us like, hey, it's time to get to bed. Because if we're sleeping, sure, we may be sleeping 8 hours, right? Every night. But if we're sleeping 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. one day, the next day we're sleeping 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. Like if we keep changing it up, 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Sorry. If we keep changing it up, that's gonna mess up our circadian rhythm because our circadian rhythm affects, when we start to feel tired during the day. So that's one thing that's really important. Along with that, we have different sleep stages, right? There's REM sleep, there's deep sleep. So there's all these different stages. Now, deep sleep is, let's say we go to the gym and we work out, right? We're tearing our muscle fibers. Now, deep sleep is when our muscles are recovering. So sure, we may be weightlifting every day, right? We may think, okay, we're getting stronger. I don't need to worry about anything else, right? I'm eating a lot of food, I'm hitting the gym. But if you're sleeping 4 hours a day, and you're not getting enough deep sleep, guess what? Your gains are going to be affected. Then REM sleep, that's when our everything we learned during the day, everything we studied during the day, REM sleep is when that actually gets etched into our
Hmm.
memory, right? And so you may have spent the whole night studying, but then you get a couple hours of sleep, and guess what? Everything you studied last night is gone, right?
Yeah.
So prioritizing REM sleep the night before an exam is really important, because that's what's going to help you perform well on the exam. So um, all these little things, right? We may think everything else we're doing, we may be doing everything else right, right? But then sacrificing sleep sets us back so much. And like all these little things within sleep as well, like your caffeine intake during the day, and when you should dim the lights a couple hours before sleeping. You should turn off these devices. There's so many of these little things that have a huge effect that we tend to disregard. Um, and especially as students, I feel like it's quite a big thing. So yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of great stuff. I actually recently started doing two things,
Hmm.
um, which kind of exemplify the things you've been talking about, which is one, I started waking up the same time even on weekends,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing. I usually Monday always scrambling before,
Right.
uh, go to sleep too late, and I could do everything right Sunday night. Dim the lights, maybe a little bit of warm milk or tea or whatever,
Right.
but just doesn't happen. Can't sleep.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think the main driver anecdotally, um, if you feel the same way or if it's valuable, it's just like if I wake up early, I'll sleep earlier.
Yeah.
Always. Like I can try
Always.
anything else, but that's just like the most obvious stuff. And I like to get caught up with all the fancy stuff, but I think is it not like that for you? Are there
Yeah.
people who it's not like that for? Like they'll wake up early, still can't sleep?
I think from what I heard on the podcast is
Mhm.
everybody has a certain like every individual has a different sort of sleep timing that is comes most naturally to them.
Hmm.
Some people naturally go to bed a little later and wake up a little later. Um, but what you're saying is right. Like naturally, if you were to wake up earlier, you will fall asleep earlier because you're completing all your tasks, earlier in the day, and you'll start to feel tired. But from what I heard, everybody has their own sort of sleep cycle. Um, and then their schedules are different, adjusting like to what they prefer, right? And that's why you hear like I'm a night owl versus I'm a morning person. Um, but yeah, you're right about that.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. It's weird because I feel um I thought I was like you said, a night owl
Hmm.
before, but then I just started like forcefully, switching it
Mm,
a few
yeah,
days.
yeah.
Waking up as early as like 4 a.m., 5 a.m.
Wow.
Not because of like, I think that a lot of people who do that are like they have like David Goggins in their mind.
Yeah,
You know who
yeah,
that is, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, hardcore. Like I did it for the opposite reason. Because I could take the mornings then very slow. There's like
Mm,
sunset and it's nice and no one's out. But
yeah,
anyway, I tried that and then all of a sudden, yeah, and then I go to sleep earlier and then I'm
yeah,
like, this is my thing. And it
yeah,
completely
yeah.
switched. So how would I know, if it feels like it changes for me, how would I know my natural time? I'm really
That's
curious.
a that's a great point because I feel like a lot of people who say they're night owls, it's just because they can't put their phone down when they go to bed or
That
like,
yes, that was
stuff like that.
100% me, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like me too, right?
Okay.
And I think you're right, like in that if people were to just make a few lifestyle changes, it's not that they're not a morning person, it's just that they don't prioritize sleeping early,
Yeah.
right? So you are right about that. Um, let me try searching it up actually.
Mhm.
Um, I'll try to find you the exact thing, natural sleep cycle. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just finding your like finding your natural like circadian rhythm and when your sleep cycles are. But like I do agree with you that it's just like honestly I think it might just be coming down to your lifestyle changes and what you prioritize because if you really wanted to be a morning person, you could optimize your life, optimize your schedule to fit that. And then I feel like naturally our body does a good job of adapting to whatever that new lifestyle change was. Like I'm assuming um you were able to, adjust your schedule and everything to fit that 5 a.m. wake up time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, to your point, I mean, if someone forced themselves to like
Hmm.
go to sleep at 9 a.m. and wake up at um like 2 p.m. and that's
Yeah.
their cycle.
Yeah.
And then, when they're up, like the moon's out, and then when they're sleeping, the sun's out.
Yeah.
I wonder if that, but to your point, like what you were saying, like that doesn't seem natural. I feel like
Right.
even though you might do that consistently and get the sleep, like
That's true. It
I
it
feel like
it
that would have
comes
effects, right?
it comes down to our circadian rhythm. So I just searched it up. I found what it was. It's called sleep chronotype.
Okay. Huh.
Everybody has a sleep chronotype, and there's quizzes out there that you can take to figure out what yours is. But a lot of it is dictated by our circadian rhythm, which deals with like, the sunrise and
Yeah.
sunset when the sun is out, right? And that has a huge effect. And for people who are like night shift workers, their sleep and circadian rhythm gets affected quite negatively
Hmm.
because of that. And I'm sure you've heard Huberman constantly rave about getting morning sunlight,
Yeah.
like first thing in the morning. So um,
Mm.
I think sleep chronotype lifestyle, it's a mix of both. So you could make these adjustments, right, to shift to like a 5 a.m. wake up time. But in the end, also your personal sleep chronotype will play into that. And it may affect your performance negatively as well. So I think it's important to find a sweet spot between those two. But I'll try to send you like some of these sleep chronotype quizzes, because it's really helpful in figuring out, what might work best for you. Um, but yeah, I'll send it to you in chat. But
Thank you.
yeah, that's definitely something to check out. And I need to do my research as well. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That is good to know because then I guess you could leverage that
Hmm.
to your routine. So thanks
Hmm.
for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Switching gears, where do you think that because you're involved with the Sioka Center and I know you are very entrepreneurial, um, you know, very entrepreneurial mind and spirit. Where do you think that innovation is really lacking in health tech right now? Where are people not paying attention?
Hmm. There's definitely a lot of hype, as we've talked about a lot in the wearable space. And I'm seeing a lot more in the health data space as well, like at hospitals, collection of data and giving insights based on that. But I think one thing that I would like to see is connecting the two. I feel like that would be really cool where the data I get from my Whoop, my doctor is able to see some of that, or like based on what I want to share. And the medicines that my doctor is prescribing, the lab results that my doctor is providing, that data is able to go to my Whoop, and I'm able to get insights based off of that. And I feel like having those two be able to connect would be so powerful because I could get insights based, because the thing is, our Whoop and our Aura rings can't get our urine, like chemical analysis. They can't get our blood sugar levels, right? But our doctors can.
Yeah.
But our doctor can't get our sleep data. They can't get our, so I feel like there's a knowledge gap on both sides where the Whoop is trying to tell us so many things about our health, but it's missing some of that information that the hospitals have. The hospital's trying to tell us so many things about our health, but it's missing all of our sleep, like our sleep stuff, our personal exercise regimen, and all that. But if we're able to combine those two, like just think about how powerful that would be. And it just completes, it makes a full circle, like a full story, so that you can actually understand what's going on in your body and what are the best steps to take to improve your health and lengthen your lifespan.
Holy cow. Yeah. I mean, that's a really great connection you made. And yeah, because I mean, you'd be in a doctor's office and they're
Hmm.
asking you like, how much sleep do you get? And
Hmm.
this is a very important data point for a lot of
So important.
diagnoses and like being able to tell what's going on with someone. And
Right.
someone might just be like, I get pretty good sleep.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
What in the world does that mean?
Yeah.
And if you just connected a little Oura ring or a Whoop
Hmm.
or even an Apple Watch, I think it tracks sleep too. Might have to
It
fact check
does.
me.
Yep.
Okay. Even this thing, this is $100. It's called a Pavlok. It's pretty cool. Also
Oh,
tracks.
you should tell me about it.
Sure, yeah. It's like my friends make fun of me for this, but the main thing, uh, why it's called a Pavlok, right? That sounds like
Hmm.
Pavlov. That's not a
Yeah.
coincidence.
Yeah.
It's because there's a button on it that you
Hmm.
press and it shocks
Hmm.
you.
Oh, weren't these guys on Shark Tank?
Oh, they were. Okay. Were they?
I think I saw something similar on Shark Tank.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I
continue.
would have to check out that episode for sure. I want to know the guy who came up with shocking yourself. Um, but yeah, so it does that. That's kind of like the whole thing. I
Yeah.
actually got it for one reason and one
Hmm.
reason only, and that's my roommate is very, very sensitive to noise when he sleeps.
Hmm.
And I wake up pretty early,
Hmm.
earlier than him. And so, you know, like I didn't want my alarms bugging him. So I just got this Pavlok, which buzzes me
Mm,
awake
got you.
because
Got you.
yeah,
Sorry, but
it has a buzz feature, I should say. So not
I
shock
see.
me. Doesn't shock me
Yeah.
awake.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it buzzes me awake. And then if I don't, get up and get my phone and press a certain button in like a couple seconds, then it'll shock me, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's insane. That is insane.
And then I also started using it to like, this is where people call me a little weird, but like if I get distracted in class or like doing work, I shock myself.
Mm, yeah. Just like to train yourself like psychologically
Yeah,
to associate like distraction with shock.
yeah, exactly.
That's pretty funny. Yeah,
Um,
the Whoop actually, when like you set an alarm, it buzzes like when you wake up. So it has like a similar feature.
mhm,
But yeah, sorry, I know we got off track, but we
yeah,
were talking about the hospitals and the
yes,
wearables.
yeah, where the wearable data can meet, hospitals.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, that's That's huge. I actually went to the doctor here on campus
Hmm.
today for something, and yeah, they just asked like kind of qualitative questions.
Hmm.
They also took heart rate and all this great stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of the qualitative questions, could be answered
Right.
objectively with an Oura ring.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And for a certain project,
Hmm.
I did a ChatGPT deep research
Hmm.
just on the IoT industry, like trends and how, they would leverage AI. Um, and one of the things was a lot of them are trying to expand their base from just customers to like
Hmm.
insurers,
Mm.
which that would implement kind of what you're talking about, I assume.
Right. Right.
So imagine that. Imagine getting prescribed an Oura ring. Imagine getting prescribed an 8 sleep. Imagine getting prescribed
That's
a
crazy.
Whoop.
That would be pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
might be, yeah, I might be wrong in that it would look like that. Maybe it would look like something else, but
Hmm.
I think that general idea uh could be something we're heading to. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but
Right.
I I think that some stuff's going on with that. Just
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
stuff to look forward to
For
if you're
sure.
patient,
Yeah.
for sure.
Because I think right now all of these products are mainly consumed by people like us who are enthusiasts, when it comes to fitness and
Yeah.
nutrition and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the people who maybe really need these products, who are ignoring their health, who are ignoring their nutrition,
Yeah.
they're not the ones who are gonna go and purchase the product. So, I think for them, they would need it to be prescribed. And so I feel like that would be powerful because right now, like Whoop is targeting enthusiasts, but in reality, like even if the enthusiasts weren't to have a Whoop, weren't to have an Aura, I'm sure they would be fine when it comes to their health. They're just trying to go from that, like maybe 80% health optimization. They're trying to make it like 90, 95% optimized. But people who are at like 15% optimization, 20% optimization, they don't care, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like you're right. Like I mean, if that prescribing thing is happening, that would be really important. And I feel like that could be really helpful because I mean in America, obesity is such a huge problem. People are ignoring their health. So I think that could be really powerful.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I mean absolutely. It is kind of, I hope this isn't an overgeneralization, but when you look up a lot of health optimization things, yeah, it's mainly, you'll see like Brian Johnson. You know who that
Hmm.
is?
Yep, yep.
You'll see like biohackers, you'll see athletes,
Hmm.
or you will see, things that are made for people that are already, unfortunately, very ill,
Right.
is where, we start um kind of like focusing on really improving someone's health
Hmm.
rather than just your average guy, to
Hmm.
improve their health so that they don't, you know, get ill, so that they can live, longer and kind of age more gracefully and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, I'm reading a book right now that's called what's it called? It's by David Sinclair. It's the book I sent you. It's really
Oh,
good. Uh,
I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Lifespan. The book is called Lifespan.
Lifespan.
Yeah, and he talks about how people don't call aging a disease.
Mm.
Like they don't try to stop people from aging.
Hmm.
They age, and then naturally with aging,
Hmm.
something happens, like they get
Hmm.
cancer, and then they try to cure the cancer.
Mm.
but no one thinks about it as curing aging. Matter of fact, this guy, he's a really brilliant guy, David Sinclair. He's gotten a lot of scrutiny for identifying aging as a disease.
Interesting.
Like people in the community really don't like that.
Right, right,
But if aging's a disease, then we should all be treated.
right. And then everybody's suffering.
It's interesting stuff.
That is an
Um,
interesting perspective, yeah. And I
and
think
yeah,
Brian Johnson shares a similar perspective,
absolutely. Yeah.
right?
I mean, his slogan's
Don't die.
pretty yeah, it's pretty good. Don't die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So let's let's talk about some ethical stuff because you're minoring in our new responsible AI program
Hmm.
here at Santa Clara University. And I'm really confused, honestly. This is a
Hmm.
very general question,
Hmm.
but it's something I'm trying to learn about, and probably other people too. My girlfriend, she's very into law,
Hmm.
and as I've been really into health technologies, she's wondering about this, and it's this: why do people care about data privacy so much in health tech? I know that
Mm.
sounds dumb, but like, okay, someone knows my heart rate for over the last
Yeah.
week. Who
Yeah.
cares? You
Right.
know? Even if
Right.
someone knew I had a disease, like, okay, who
Yeah.
cares? What are they going to try to kill me with it? Well, that's illegal. I don't know. I just can't.
Yeah.
Financial data, obviously. If someone has my credit card, they could, spend it on Gucci or whatever.
Mm.
But everyone's talking, oh, HIPAA, data privacy, it's so important
Mm.
with health tech, and I just really don't understand why. And maybe I sound naive by that, but I want to ask you why should people care? Why should I care about data privacy in health tech?
I haven't really thought about that question, and I think you bring up a great point because I mean one would think like yeah like what is someone gonna do with my heart rate data? Um, One thing I could possibly think about, I'm not entirely sure, but maybe they can extract some insights from my data, and if that data is sold, let's say I have a irregularity in my heartbeat, right?
Mhm.
Then that data is sold, and then maybe some like pacemaker company is starting to like market more to me. Like I maybe like the drug that is able to treat that certain issue that you're facing, that person would be able to market their product to you more directly. But that's like the only thing that comes to mind. I mean, I would assume it's the same. I mean, of course, like nobody wants there's a lot of confidentiality when it comes to when you go to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Everything you say stays between you and your doctor.
Mhm.
Now, like, why would you want to keep that confidential? Because you want what's going on with your body, what's going on with
Yeah.
your health. You want that to stay private to you.
Yeah.
And I know with data with these wearables, it's not as like clear like, oh, I'm suffering from this, right? But I think like that could possibly lead to things that are in that realm. So yeah, you bring up a great point, and I'll definitely need to do more research into that. But it's a good question to ask, but that's my only thought process when it comes to that. I need to do more research.
Well, actually, that actually gave me some ideas, and I want to kind of see what you think about this
Hmm.
because you're also with you do a lot with AI,
Hmm.
and a lot of it's related to some of the ethical problems there that people talk about, which is the marketing. I actually
Mm.
never thought of this as a like a problem that could arise with taking data, but
Hmm.
I just know that, like, do you use TikTok?
I do not use TikTok, no.
Okay, nice. I'm about to talk bad about TikTok. But like I know that TikTok will track everything about you, and then
Yeah.
they'll use it to keep you glued to that screen, and you look at what's going on. It's
Yeah.
dystopian.
Hmm.
My I, I'll say like a few family members of mine are, in their preteen, teenager years, and Generation Alpha, and
Yep.
just glued. to those screens, and it's like this is not good. And it's
It's not.
because they're taking what you like, like the videos you've spent a little more time watching. They're taking your
Hmm.
geographic data,
Hmm.
all types of stuff that they can track and draw correlations between that and what you
Right.
like, and they're using it to keep you on this app, and it's
Right.
crazy.
It's
And I
insane.
feel like, yeah, I mean, if let's say there's a Neuralink or something kind of product that would track literally
Your
what
thoughts.
Blair, yeah, like, well, sort of, you're,
Yeah.
if it can get to that, then poof. Yeesh.
Hmm.
But even like what it can probably maybe do now, which is like track dopamine,
Mm,
the core of all of,
that
I
would
mean,
be insane.
literally the addiction chemical.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if TikTok literally tracked your dopamine. Goodness, that's
Dude.
terrible.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. And
Yeesh.
that's technically what they're running off of right now.
Yeah, I was
But
about to say.
they're not able to track it directly, of course, but they're
Yeah.
seeing what do you spend most of your time watching. And I actually like this is why I'm interested in ethics. I'm not interested in ethics at all besides this, like
Hmm.
specifically social media
Oh,
and
okay.
how these like I know
Yeah.
this is not related to health tech, but I think it could
I
tie it a
think it
little bit.
is for sure. I mean,
I mean, mental health,
yeah.
I feel like this has a huge effect. And
Yeah.
I did quite a
Really.
bit of research in this at the end of my senior year.
Yeah.
And it's just insane to me because you'll notice if you were to, let's say you're on Instagram Reels, if I were to watch very like closely watch a couple basketball reels, for example. I watch the entire video all the way through. I press the like button. I swipe a few more, skip a bunch of videos, then I see another basketball one. Spend the whole video watching it, like it, comment, and I interact with it. Within a couple minutes, every single thing on my feed is going to be basketball related. And what they're doing is they're just trying to see what do you like to watch and how can we get you to watch more of that
Hmm.
so you stay on our app longer and so we can generate more ad revenue, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so like again, like I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but they say like if something is free, that usually means that you are the product, right? Because your time, your
Yeah.
attention is being sold to these companies who are marketing, right? And it's so, and like without
Yeah.
understanding how dopamine works,
Hmm.
that like this younger generation, and including us, I
Yeah.
feel like including us, like it's so concerning, like that we're gonna get hooked to these things, and it's gonna affect us mentally and physically as well, because we're gonna spend our time looking at screens instead of going outside, and so like I think it's something huge that needs to be addressed. Like it's a huge problem.
Okay. This is something I didn't actually know that this was your ethical focus, and well, not only do we strongly align with this, but I think it's very related to this podcast, and we should definitely talk about this a little more. I mean, uh yeah, because yeah, like social media. I actually this is pretty interesting. I had a professor here who's in the I don't want to say too much about him, but he's like a real life Frankenstein that he spent all this time doing AI research. And then I had a talk
Mm,
with him, and he's like, I kind of regret this because I see how it's being used against people with like
mm,
social media. And
right,
this is an incredibly smart guy, and he really sees where where we're at with
right.
with AI, at least in that sphere. And it's kind of hard to look away because yeah, it's just really tough what's going on.
Yeah. It's gonna, I think, like, I mean, whatever technology comes out, of course, there's gonna be so many great things it's gonna be used for, but it's the same on the other side of things. There's a lot of bad things that are going to happen with it too. And so, like, I was at RSA conference, which is a cybersecurity conference,
Hmm.
in San Francisco last week.
Yeah.
And what they were talking about was like, it's great, it's exciting that AI is coming and it's revolutionizing cybersecurity.
Yeah.
We're able to deal with these problems with the help of AI. But guess what? Now the bad guys are able to use AI to make even bigger problems, right? And so now not only do we have to address those basic problems that existed
Hmm.
in cybersecurity before AI, but we
Yeah.
also have to worry about those new problems that are being created. So um like as technology adapts, it's gonna be great things that come out of it, but there's always also gonna be a bad side to it.
Wow. Yeah. I that actually I wonder because I was for a second I was considering that responsible AI minor.
Hmm.
And I know a few of my friends here at SCU and stuff listen to this podcast. Like what's does that minor cover this kind of stuff at all?
So I actually have yet to take a course
Oh,
in the minor.
okay.
The minor the courses will end up being more in the upper division classes, because most of the lower division classes actually overlap with my major, which is computer science and engineering.
Oh, okay.
So right now it's quite a few general classes, but later on I'm going to be taking more classes related to these ethics and stuff. So I'm sure they do have some of these specializations within social media, and
Hmm.
I'll probably end up going with those. Um, yeah.
No, that's I think that's a really noble cause
Hmm.
because yeah, it's just really crazy. I hope I don't sound like some cynical like, but it's like crazy that these companies have like high, the companies like Meta and
Hmm.
Instagram and
Yeah, yeah.
have very high like they actually kind of boast some high ESG scores in a lot of the rankings.
What's ESG? Sorry.
Oh, environmental like social governance,
I see.
and they do all this stuff to kind of seem like they're, being great for the environment or ethical
Right.
and that's great, but
Yeah. What about the people?
like you can't fool me. All right, maybe you're fooling someone else, but I see what Instagram does to humanity at the end of the day, man. I don't,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean?
I agree. I agree.
Crazy. No, but good thing we got guys like you who can, see through it and working
You
on
too.
research against the one thing that I was actually talking about this in the last episode with Michael Ueshima, the
Right.
founder of iClub. An amazing thing to do is YouTube. YouTube's actually really cool because so YouTube, yes, just like everything else, they've implemented a short form content thing, unfortunately, and there's the recommended, which kind of
Hmm.
aims to get you, but YouTube
Hmm.
gives you the option to turn off data tracking and it works. So
Really?
yeah, it's so awesome. Um, so first of all, when you do it, it completely disables shorts because shorts only runs on your data. So you just
Wow.
won't have access to shorts if you disable your data on YouTube, which is awesome. So that's
Hmm.
one. Two, it disables recommendations. So you open YouTube, right? It usually starts with the recommendations, so it can give you something
Hmm.
you want to watch. It's just black. It's just a search bar. And
Interesting.
YouTube is literally just a tool for you to search for a specific video and then you watch it and then
Wow.
you're done.
Wow. That is powerful.
And it has been so powerful. I used to get caught up really addicted to it's so stupid and I'm ashamed of this, but these like it's these videos of these like guys who go on the street and they
Hmm.
do like trivia with people
Yeah, I've seen those.
and they start with the really like easy questions and I answer it like in my head and I'm like, "Oh, I wonder if I'm going to get the next one." And I just
Yeah,
I
keeps going.
I'll I'm embarrassed, but yeah, it's been like hours.
Yeah.
And I went on YouTube to like search up a video that I wanted, and then I'll spend hours doing the trivia, and then I don't even watch the YouTube video that I came on there to see. That's actually productive.
Yeah.
So, so good thing we
I
got guys like you, looking into
appreciate
this
it.
stuff.
I think that's something like my friends make fun of me for it, but like I'm always like every couple weeks disabling Instagram for some reason or the other, and then like I haven't had TikTok for a long time, and like I've tried to find ways to, you know, but the thing is like in today's world, we do need these apps, right? Like, how do I communicate with people? For example, for AI collab, how do we market the club? How do we, you need to use Instagram to access the people, right?
Mhm.
And so, like for YouTube, what you said, like if you're able to extract the exact benefits, like the things that add value to YouTube without all the things that add distraction, I think that's so powerful. And I'm definitely gonna check out that data tracking tool. And I think, however, in some cases, like if you truly do want to use YouTube for entertainment, people would want recommendations, right? Because they don't if they're interested in basketball and they're getting suggestions for like golf, then like they're gonna be like, hey, I want to see basketball stuff. So there are two sides to
Yeah.
the coin, but I think if it's a real problem for someone and they're getting way too distracted, I think that's really powerful, being able to extract only what you need and nothing more.
Yeah, absolutely. And as for Instagram,
Hmm.
I don't use the app, but check this out. There's a lot of Chrome extensions you can get.
I see.
So every single time AIC does a post and I want to like it or repost it, I'll hop in on my web version and that disables like most of Instagram.
Mm, interesting.
It turns it into like what I was talking about, like what YouTube is when you
Yeah,
disable
yeah,
the
yeah.
data.
Okay, you need to tell me what those extensions are. Because right now I use Safari to access Instagram on my phone.
Hmm.
But the
That's still
thing
good
like
though than not ha
yeah,
than having the app, no notifications.
agreed.
Yeah.
But I wish there was a way to disable Reels. That's like my one wish, if there was a way to just remove that. Because like as much as I can talk about this and as much as I can say like, oh, this is bad, the thing is the algorithms still get me, right? And like I've tried everything like screen time limits, this, that, but it's very hard to like entirely just cut it out, you know? So definitely like extensions and stuff like this is helpful.
Yeah, man. But it's one of the biggest crises of today for sure.
Hmm.
Um, and I have one last question.
Hmm.
Before we wrap it up, I don't want to hold you for too long.
No worries.
But I really wanted to ask you about some of the work you're doing with the athletes because that's what got me intrigued in doing a podcast with you in the first place. And then we
Hmm.
started talking about health tech, and so I just want to know kind of what's going on with that project,
Hmm.
and what have you learned kind of from that project? What are you
Hmm.
guys trying to do? You know, what are kind of the bigger implications of this?
Totally. Yeah, so all of these athletes wear a device called Catapult. Not sure if you've heard of them, but it's sort of a vest that they wear underneath their jerseys. And then in the vest, there's like a puck that sits near and around their heart. So it's tracking things like heart rate, but it also has a GPS tracker that tracks their location on the field, how fast they're going, velocity, acceleration. It tracks the load. So how much load are they taking on? Higher load means, they're putting more strain on their body. And there's various different metrics. If you look at the data that we have for all the players, it's millions and millions of lines because it's tracking this every fraction of a second, right? Throughout every practice, throughout every game, all this data is being tracked. Now, another thing that's used to track these players is called vault, and it's like a force plate. So think of it like a plate, and then they have to jump on this plate, and it tracks how much force they're exerting. And that also gives some information as to, how fatigued they are, how much strength do they have, how much power are they able to exert on this plate. Um, and so we have this crazy amount of data. So now what we had to do was figure out, okay, how do we use all this data to our advantage? And one thing we wanted to focus on that we felt was quite important was recovery and injury prevention. So we looked into a lot of the metrics that we were provided by the team, a lot of information. So we read a lot of studies done by FC Barcelona, the soccer team, as to what metrics are most important. And we found out that acceleration was a huge thing. Like if a player is constantly, of course, if they're doing full sprints in the middle of a game, like it's gonna take a toll. And then their load is quite important as well. So we wanted to see, okay, based on how many times they're reaching, max speed during a game, based on how much load they're taking on during a game, how do we extract information from that and maybe suggest some recovery methods that would best help them, heal post game to prevent injuries in the future. And again, there's always that issue of a lack of data. Like as I said, with the hospitals, they're not able to provide as good advice as they could if they had your sleep data, right? So that was one thing we were missing. We were like, hey, what if we were to get these athletes whoops or
Mm,
Oura rings to be able to
mm,
factor their sleep into this? Because um, they may be taking on a bunch of load during the game, but if they slept really well, maybe it's not as risky. But if somebody didn't sleep a lot, and even if they're not exerting themselves that much during a game, guess what? They could get injured. So there's that gap in data that's missing.
mm.
But due to
Yeah.
privacy and all these different regulations, we're not able to get the sleep data. So we did the best that we could in extracting information from this data, and we basically found a way to label at different points during a game at what risk or like how at risk each player was of injury. And so that was what we worked on last quarter, just being able to identify which players are higher at risk, which players are lower at risk, and developing some sort of standard for that. Um, and then one thing we've been working on this quarter is looking back historically to make this more accurate, right? So we don't just want to speculate, we want to base it off of hard data that is from the past. So we wanted to see the injury logs of injuries that have happened in the past and correlate the data from that game where that injury happened, see what all their metrics were saying, and did that lead to an injury? Did that what could have possibly
Mm,
led to an injury? And using
mhm.
that to help improve our accuracy. But yeah, overall our goal was to just sort of help athletes understand what leads to injuries and how to help mitigate that. But the thing is in game, it's quite hard. Like you can tell someone like, oh, you're at risk. Is that going to stop them from going and slide tackling someone after full sprint to prevent them from scoring a goal? No, right? But it's
Yeah.
these little like we're trying to provide insights. But in the end, like a sport is a sport. The game will have to be played, and injuries are a part of it. Um, I wish this could have been used for Steph Curry. I know he's out for the next week with a hamstring
Oh,
injury.
oh,
But but yeah, and there's also the difference between contact and non-contact injuries, right? So if there's a contact injury, you can't predict that. That's random. You're running into someone and, messing up your shoulder versus just out of the blue straining your hamstring, right? So it's a complicated thing. There's a lot of data. It's very hard to, find some sort of middle ground between telling people to do something and like so it's tough,
mhm.
but we're trying our best to provide valuable insights to the team and the players.
Yeah, no, that's definitely use cases there, like coaches wondering, how long they should play like a certain player, whether they should play him.
Hmm.
I guess in the big leagues that can be a huge decision, like lots like $1 million decision, literally, right?
Totally.
So
Yeah, yeah,
that's really good stuff. That's awesome.
yeah.
So
Um, Sorry, I just wanted to say one more thing.
yeah.
That was pretty big in the health tech space.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
Whoop just released their new like iteration called
Okay.
like the Whoop 5.0. So right now what I wear is a 4.0. And they haven't released a new version for quite a few years, so this is quite big.
Okay.
And so one thing that was huge, I know you were talking about Lifespan, the book. So they're actually providing you a metric with your age, or I don't know if it's your metabolic age, but like your age, and whether you're younger than what you actually are, like when it comes to your body. So I think that's something that's really powerful. and they're even providing a Whoop medical grade. So I think they may be working towards bridging that gap that we were talking about. But yeah, this just happened yesterday, and so I thought it was pretty cool the things they're doing. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's great. Thank you for keeping me in the loop with something like that. That's
yeah,
awesome. I actually do a chat a GPT every night to like stay up to date,
yeah.
and now I don't have to do that. I think I'm up to date. I'm up to date enough. Like it's like a health tech news GPT for the day,
That's really cool.
but now I don't have to. Thank you. That's pretty awesome. To know about that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you're gonna upgrade, or I don't know how that stuff works
I
with
might have to.
this
I might
stuff.
have to. I'll look into it, see
Yeah,
like what the advantages are, but it
yeah,
definitely seems really cool.
that does seem
Yeah.
pretty awesome. That's a
Hmm.
great direction they're going for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, thank you for that. Definitely
Yeah.
happy that you included that in. I guess I'll start the outro. You know, Krish, before this podcast, he texted me, like, oh, I don't know how much I'm going to talk about, but this was an absolute masterclass. We talked about a lot of great stuff: sleep, AI, data, human performance, mental health. You know, that sleep isn't just one factor; it's a foundation. Um,
Hmm.
that's really great for people to know. You know, consistency being king with things like sleep and circadian rhythms. You
Hmm.
know, the vast amount of data that's going into health tech, and you know, lots of dots that can be connected, and a lot of value that could be provided from connecting those dots. Um, and we're just scratching the surface with recovery tech. You know, look at what they're doing with Catapult sensors, and then,
Yep.
look what, what's, what are you guys going to do when you are able to maybe integrate a Whoop or an Aura? I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
great stuff for recovery to make sure, people can enjoy their sports without these bad risks. And tech isn't just about optimization. It's also about the ethics, right?
Yeah.
Especially with social media. And maybe that's what separates health tech from just tech in general. Um, Accessibility, responsibility, things like that. You know, we want to build systems that truly help people.
Right.
um, not just keep you on the screen for a little longer. So that's awesome. So Krish, thank you so much for bringing, a lot of your knowledge set, your expertise, and your visions about the industry. It wasn't just a conversation about tech. It was also about how to live better, how to train a little smarter with sleep, how to think deeper about these kinds of things in the industry and ethics and stuff. So if you're listening and you want to become more superhuman, start by respecting your sleep. Question where your data's going, and make sure you're tracking things. So until next time, stay sharp, stay strong, stay superhuman. Peace.